Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of On Point for today, the 21st day of August 2026. My name is Alexis Jeffers, and of course, I am here at Von Radio 860 AM 93.7 FM. And of course, you can also follow this program on Facebook and YouTube and any other social media platform that is being used by Von Radio. But of course, radio is so powerful that Von Radio has been around for so long and still going. Talk radio is still something that people gravitate to. So it is indeed my pleasure being here, as I do every Friday afternoon from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. And so we'll get started here this afternoon by saying a warm and cordial greetings to all of the folks up there in the St. James Parish who are listening to this program at this time. While I'm in St. James, let me say good afternoon, as I always do, to Violet Baby Perkins, who is now at home recovering, and also Sandra Perkins as well. They're both back there in Barnaby. And while I'm there as well, let me say hello and good afternoon to Kenrick Clark, who is also under the weather to some extent, and I wish you well in your recovery and so forth. Kenrick, you've been a hard-working man, and you continue to work and you continue to contribute. And anyone else who are, going through any particular phase at this point in time, I say good afternoon and get well greetings to you. And so throughout the whole of Nevis, and even those who are there at the Alexandra Hospital as well, I say good afternoon and get well greetings to you also. And of course, we know we have a large following as well, because from time to time I will meet persons on the street or persons who come home for a short visit, and they will tell me on a Friday afternoon they tune into Von Radio and to this particular show On Point. And for that, we are certainly grateful for that. We are thankful that you are out there in the diaspora and also staying in touch with what is going on here on the island of Nevis. So therefore, let me say good afternoon to all those who are listening within the sub-region. But let me start by saying good afternoon to my friends and family and so forth down there in St. Kitts, our neighboring island, and sister island, I should say. And of course, Sabre Station, St. Bart's and St. Martin, French and Dutch, that is. And of course, US and British Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, and all the way up into the United States and Canada and the whole of Europe, wherever our citizens are, whether they're there living, working, vacationing, whatever the case, and of course all the way into Asia, but more specifically those students who are from the Federation who are there studying, and if persons are there working as well, I say good morning to you. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. But I was saying that persons would meet me and tell me that they are indeed in tune with what is going on here in Nevis because of the various broadcasting or the various shows that are broadcast on these airwaves. And so I am happy that I am able to play my part in that regard. And so we want to continue to extend best wishes. And something that comes to mind, there are times when we would be speaking from these microphones or through these microphones, and we don't know who may be listening at a given time. And that is why it is so important and it's so fundamental of us to keep the broadcasting and the dialogue as clean as possible, so that at least persons can, at least walk away and say that Von Radio and the folks who are on the radio station here are keeping the standards as high as possible. No cussing, no belittling of persons, but we're here to bring facts and information to you as best as we can, and the only way that we know how to do so, and that is being as respectful as possible. And so we move on from there. Sticking with the format of the show, normally we would express sympathies to all of the grieving families out there, and that include, of course, the family of Teacher Carmen Lawrence. I'm dressed to go to that funeral shortly. It starts at 1:30, of course, where they'll have a viewing at 1:30, and then, of course, the funeral starts at 2 p.m., so I'm hoping to get there on time. You may want to know how, but I'll try my best to get there almost on time or on time if I possibly can. So let me get going quickly as well, and also say that we want to express sympathy greetings to the family of Mrs. Leontine Clark up there in Chicken Stone area. We visited Joya earlier this week, I believe it was Monday, and express our sympathies. But of course, those of us who are familiar with Mrs. Clark would know that she was a music teacher, a community oriented person, and also a leader in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So at least the funeral will be held on Sunday afternoon up there at the Seventh-day Adventist Church there at Chicken Stone Meets Pasture area. And so I'm encouraging all of us to go out and lend our support, because Mrs. Clark certainly would have left behind a rich legacy of music professionals. And I will say, I was one of her students at some point in the past. That was way back in the 90s, but I don't know, it was rather, when I say burdensome, I was leaving work in the evening and hustling over to Chicken Stone to put in a couple of hours of learning to play the piano, and I didn't get too far with that. I must say, and at one point she would have said to me, listen, come and let's do it again, and I'm going to take my time with you. But it was just too demanding with so many things going on at the time. At that point in time, I was the manager of TDC Rentals, a company that had just about 100 plus vehicles to manage on a daily basis. And so it was demanding of me then, along with the staff that I had then. And so it was difficult to fit that in. And I'm always disappointed in myself that I didn't continue under the tutelage of Mrs. Clark, because she would have churned out quite a number of students. And I want to say, she would have done her part. She was 102 years old, going on 103. I believe September would have made her 103 if she would have gotten to that point. And so may God continue to bless the family, and may her soul continue to rest in peace. She has really done a phenomenal job in teaching our young men and young women music and other disciplines as well too. Yeah, okay, may her soul continue to rest in peace. And so we move on, and quickly let me also say that in times of sorrow there's times of joy as well. So persons are celebrating today. Quickly I'll say that one such person, or some of the persons, but the first person on my list is Jeanette Wallace down there in St. Martin. She's from the Barnaby area. Those of you who are familiar with Priscilla Wallace, that's her mom. And Jeanette is down in St. Martin, is celebrating today. Happy birthday to you, Jeanette, and hopefully you're having a marvelous day. I suppose you know how to celebrate, and I encourage you to celebrate in style, as they say. Also today is Mrs. Iona Manners, and some people would wonder, who is Iona Manners? Well, Iona is just simply Letty, the wife of my friend there, Franchette Manners. Yeah, Letty is celebrating today, and to be honest with you, I went to school with Letty. I think I was a class behind her, and all I knew as, and still know her as, is Letty. But Letty, good afternoon to you. Have yourself a wonderful day, and of course I wish you many more years of celebrations as well, and so enjoy it to the max. And anyone else who are celebrating today, I say happy birthday. If you're celebrating some major milestone, same thing as well, enjoy it to the max as well. Yesterday Mrs. Lucina Stapleton Wade would have celebrated her 70th birthday. She had a celebration here on Nevis earlier this month, so yesterday was her actual birthday, and so I believe she must have had a wonderful time, as she did here on Nevis when she was here a few weeks ago. And so we wish her many more years of celebration as well. Everyone know who Lucina is. She's our first Culturama queen, and she still looks like a queen up to today. Very beautiful lady. I say good afternoon to you wherever you are, Lucina, and have yourself a wonderful rest of the day as well. Next couple of days, Wednesday of this upcoming week, Mrs. Mercia Wallace up there in Florida, very good friend of mine, is celebrating her birthday as well. And here is another one. My daughter will be celebrating. I don't want to say how old she is, but she's getting old. She's going to be celebrating next Thursday. So happy birthday in advance to you, Justine. Well, we'll figure out the rest after that, eh? So, so she's celebrating next Thursday. I just had to slip that one in, eh? Okay, so anyone who will be celebrating over the next couple of days, best wishes to you. And I always say eat, drink, and be merry, because you know we're not getting out of this lifetime alive, if that makes sense to you. We're going to be dead in whatever period of time. So eat, drink, and be merry until such time, because whatever you leave behind, you're not taking it with you. Yeah. So spend your money on yourself and enjoy your life. It's a simple message I'm giving you, right? Because we're just not getting out of this life alive. We're going to be dead, and then you're not going to be enjoying your money or anything that you have when you're gone. So just keep that in mind, and it's just a bit of advice that I'm giving there, yeah? Okay, moving right along. The weather outside is, well, it's hot outside, eh? Very hot. Man, between my vehicle and the entrance to the station, my clothes became hot. Tells you how hot it is, you know? So I'm encouraging everyone to take a bottle of water with you, as I've done. Take a bottle of water with you. Stay away from the alcoholic drinks in this particular heat, because it can creep upon you, as this is, quickly if you're not careful. So consume a lot of water, stay hydrated, and of course we just continue to pray for rain. Last week we were told last weekend that we would have had a tropical wave of some sort, and many of us were expecting some rain. Some came, but it was of little consequence to us because it didn't do much. But we're still hoping and praying that we'll get some rain shortly, so that the plants that are outside are looking as droopy as ever, and some are dying under this type of weather condition. We're hoping that we'll get some rain so that those circumstances can change. Okay, so we're still in the hurricane season, and as I've always said, stay prepared, because we never know. And even though the indications are that we will have a below average season, just one hurricane can create major havoc in this place. But we are praying that those conditions will stay away, and we'll go through this season unscathed. And so I still encourage us to continue to be as prepared and observant as possible. Stay in touch with what is being disseminated around us in terms of the weather. Moving right along, the Concerned Citizens Movement continued to canvass the various communities throughout Nevis. Yesterday we were in Westbury, and some persons may have been looking for us in the Brownhill area. We were scheduled to be in Brownhill yesterday, but we did a quick flip of the dates, so we were scheduled to be in Westbury on Monday of this upcoming week. So this Monday we'll be in Brownhill. The reason for the change is because of the Premier was celebrating his wedding anniversary yesterday, his 32nd wedding anniversary. So obviously he needed his time to spend with his family, and so we decided to not go to Brownhill, but to go to Westbury instead. And while I'm on that, I want to say happy, well, I would say belated, but of course, if you're celebrating a 32nd wedding anniversary, man, you can celebrate for the rest of the month. How about that? So happy wedding anniversary to you, Premier Brantley and Mrs. Brantley. Hopefully you had a wonderful time yesterday. And, I'll leave it as that, because some may ask, well, when you're going to start? Well, I started already in my head. Yeah. So, anyway, that is just a light moment and a joke. Believe that. But I recall going to Grenada back in 1994 when the Premier was, tying the knot, so to speak. I showed up in Grenada, and as I always said publicly, I wasn't invited, but I bought a ticket and said, I'm going down to Grenada to my classmates' wedding, So I went down there in 94, so I remember that distinctly. And so I wrap up by saying many more celebrations I wish to you and your wife, Mr. and Mrs. Brantley, that is. And so let's hope that God will continue to bless your union. Okay, let's move on from there. Earlier this week, we heard of results that were received by our students here on the island of Nevis. Those who would have, sat the CSEC and CAPE examinations in recent months. The results are in. I don't have those results with me, but I just want to give a general congratulations and commendations to all those who would have been successful, and wish all the best to all of you going into the future. Some may have had fabulous results, some may have had mediocre results, and some may not have been pleased with their results. But be that as it may, all of you would have given it your best shot, and the results will speak for itself. What I want to say, though, to those who may not have succeeded, may not have had the type of success they were looking for, all is not lost. Yeah, some of you who would have had some success are perhaps thinking about going into the workforce, or probably thinking about going to sixth form. Whatever you aspire to, I wish you all of the best in your future endeavors. But I want to speak to those who may not have been successful and might be downhearted at this point in time, and even those who may not be thinking about going to sixth form. I always want to give an example of someone or some persons who may have, passed enough subjects to go to sixth form, but told themselves, I'm not going, or they're not going. And one such person is my good friend there, Clive Evelyn, Booger, as we call him. He's one of our best contractors here on the island of Nevis. Well, we went to school together, and of course, when we all made up our mind where we were going, some of us said we were going to sixth form. He and others said, well, he's not going. And you know what? He went to work in the construction field there with his first boss was Arnaldo Strani Shiverton. So he started as an apprentice or a laborer, I'm sure, and then he would have, climbed up the ranks to be a supervisor for Arnaldo Shiverton's construction team, and now he's one of the best contractors here in Nevis, and I will go further and say perhaps in the Federation. And he is holding down some significant projects all up and down Nevis, and he's one who I will say is the future in terms of replacing some of the older contractors who are pretty much slowing down now. Booger and others are certainly playing their part in terms of developing the island of Nevis. But he's one of those persons who decided he was not going to sixth form and going to a construction. And at that time, back in 1980 something, whatever it was, those days it was the norm for persons to seek out jobs in the banks and teaching and those type of profession. A lot of people were shying away from construction back in the day. However, it suggests to me that he made a decision, and with that decision he owned it and lived with it, and see what he has become. He's one of the most one of the best contractors in these parts, and so I use him as an example. And also there's another gentleman who works with him who is a supervisor as well, Lauren James. We call him Nene. He was in class with me as well. Nene decided he was going to go and work construction too, and Nene is one of the better contractors out there too, and I want to say to our young men and young women too, because all over the world you have diversity in these particular professions. They're no longer male dominated, but you have females going into construction, electrical work, into plumbing and all those type of areas. And these are the areas that are paying good money. Trust me when I tell you, good money. If you have just finished constructing a house and you look at the bill of quantities, you'll see the plumber is saying he want $30,000, or the electrician say he want $50,000. And the contractor is walking away with 60% of the cost of the construction. So money is in the field. It is hard work, eh? Don't think you can just get up and say I want to be in the field of construction and it's easy work. It's hard work. But from what I'm seeing, those professions are commanding a lot of bucks these days. Good money. So you should not shy away from it. I will make this point also, that I've seen a lot of construction workers who have migrated to Nevis from places like Dominica, and you hear them say that they get $400 per week down there in Dominica. Here in Nevis, some of them are getting $1,000 a week. and that is working 5 days per week, and sometimes they have something going on the weekend, so you add to that as well. So it therefore means that we should not be shying away from these particular professions, because there's money to be earned. And then, of course, construction is always, that industry is always robust, a robust industry. Why I say that is because as young people command more money, you know, salaries and so forth, then the first thing they start thinking about is perhaps piece of land, or they may go to the NHLC and say, I need house and land all at once, meaning an affordable income home that comes with you know, land, of course. And so a lot of our young people are seeking out housing, because they're seeking their own independence once they start working. And so if you're in the construction field, tell yourself you'll be working for years upon years to come, because houses will continue to be built. Electrician will always have a job to do. Same thing with plumbers. Same thing with the tilers or tile layers, or whatever you want to say. Painters as well. All of those areas are always in great demand, and so the money is there. And I say, if you don't have that academic inclination, or you're not academically inclined, you can always pursue a career in construction, because there's a demand for you for that service all the time. Yeah. Okay. So let's move on from there. And I, you know, diverted a little bit, but I'm going to come back to this canvassing that we have been, you know, doing over the last couple of weeks. And let me give the schedule for the upcoming days. We're not canvassing this afternoon, but on Monday, we're going to Brown Hill, as we should have done yesterday. We're going there on Monday, the 24th of August, yes. And then, of course, on Tuesday, we are going over to Butlers. We're canvassing the village of Butlers on Tuesday, the 25th. Of course, on Wednesday, the 26th, we are in Hanley's Road. And then, indeed, we will close out next week in Stony Grove on the 27th. Thursday, the 27th of August. And you know, these canvassing exercises that we're doing, we want to be very clear. We're not coming out and asking anyone to vote for CCM or anything like that. We're not talking elections. We are seeking to have a dialogue with members of the community to let them know what we have been doing and what our plans and programs are going forward. But most importantly, we are seeking from the folks who we are canvassing, well, what do you want done? What type of policy initiative you would want us to undertake that will benefit you, the person who we are canvassing, or the entire island? One such program that we can certainly say came out of canvassing some time ago, a year, 2 years ago, whatever the case might be, was this initiative where we would have initiated, $300 voucher for you know, parents who have children going to preschool. I think it goes up to age 3 years, yeah. I don't have the policy in front of me, but it is being utilized by many of the parents who have children going to preschool or daycare center. Yes, daycare center. And so we had a conversation with one such person earlier this week, and of course she was not aware of the initiative or the policy that we have in place. So we asked her to reach out to the you know, the requisite ministry or department in government to get more information and to be connected in such a way where the benefits will be derived accordingly from such program. And so we are glad to bring these initiatives that persons themselves have access to put in place. And so they're there for all of you out there to take advantage of. And there are other policy initiatives that we will be discussing as we go along. And I'm sure as we go to the various communities that are coming up, we'll hear from persons who will let us know as well what they would like to see done. We can always talk about roads, electricity and water and the likes. Those are programs that are in place. We're looking for new programs that can be beneficial. One of the things we have heard in recent times as well is a breakfast program whereby we know we have a school meals program, which is a lunch program, but some parents have suggested that perhaps we can look at offering breakfast as well. Yeah, now that would require perhaps more manpower, but more planning as well to do so. So that is something that can be looked at for the future as well. All right. Okay, so let's move on again to something else. So that is all canvassing for the upcoming week, and so we continue to meet with our people and continue to bring, hope and inspiration to the whole of Nevis. No cussing, no fussing, no argument. And of course, we're not out there to argue with anybody at all. We're there to listen. We're there to act on what was imparted to us. And so that is the mission of this party in government. And so let me move on, because of course we have to get out of here in short order so that I can get down to the funeral there. And one of the things I want to do is to read something that was shared to us as a party, to us in the executive of the party of the Concerned Citizens Movement. And sometimes when you think that the noise and the cussing out there is resonating, you realize that persons in Nevis are not as gullible as we may think. Persons in Nevis are smart. They are very much in tune with what is going on. And so when we are out there cussing, keep in mind that there are persons who have a certain level of understanding that is way beyond yours who are cussing, if I can put it that way. So you can huff and puff and cuss, but people out there are very, very much sedated in their approach to things, but they are thinking, and they're thinking deep. They always say, still water run deep. You always hear that saying, right? And you might see someone who is quiet and unassuming, and you think that they're not thinking. Yeah, they're thinking deep, and they're listening. And that is why I started off by saying, when we come to these microphones, it's best for us to be on our best behavior, because cussing ain't gonna put food on anybody's plate. Cussing ain't gonna provide no jobs for anybody in Nevis. And you can cuss all day and all night. When it's all said and done, it will not enrich anybody's lives. And so when we come, I for sure, when I come here, I don't have one soul to cuss. I don't have no name to call. All I want to do is to impart what I bring here on my book or my script that I bring, and I just read or tell you what I'm all about. And I am about positivity, no negativity. But listen, we got this text, and I said I'll bring it, and I got permission to come and share it, and I'm going to read it because it warmed my heart when I read this. It says something that I was just talking about, that people are listening and people are much smarter and much wiser than we think. So who want to cuss? Go ahead and cuss. So this person would have sent this to the party, and I read as such. Nevis does not have an opposition party. What we have is a group of individuals who are either unemployed, whether by choice or by circumstances, or unhappily employed while coveting the opportunity to gain access to the island's treasury. There is also a fraction whose bread done butter. I'm going to read it just as it is. There is also a fraction whose bread done butter. Collectively, they all make it their daily mission to distract the people of Nevis from what's actually happening. We are not perfect people. Thus, we should not expect a perfect government. But we must be able to admit that our government is doing their best with the cards that they are dealt with. Noise, cussing, yes, it is absolutely. But I, for one, will not be distracted by the noise, because I have learned that empty barrels make the most noise. My support is always sure. I stand for my future, my child's future, and the future generations to come. I stand for security, proven performance, and vision. I stand blue and true. I may be politically quiet. That's just the person I have grown into. But trust and believe that my support and that of my family will never waver. Keep working for us. You and the team are doing the people of Nevis well. continued prayers for the year ahead. It will be tough, or it will be a tough one, but the Lord will sustain you. And it ends by saying, have a wonderful day. Now, I decided to bring this because this put things into perspective, and it certainly added credence to what I've said earlier. And that is, cussing and all those things are not going to move the needle for many persons. People are looking for opportunities in life. People understand what is happening globally. People understand what is happening locally. And so I just want to say that things are tough here in Nevis. Things are tough in the Federation. And things are tough internationally. Some of the challenges that we are facing, by all means, we can say it is self-inflicted, and some of it are external, which you cannot do anything about. For example, we've been hearing about this global tariff that have been slapped onto different countries by the United States. We hear the President of the United States say, oh, I just wake up in the morning, I'm going to slap 100% tariff on China. I'm going to slap 100% tariff on Canada, or wherever, or whichever country that might be. We might take these things for a joke, but these things are serious. Serious issues that we ourselves have to grapple with. For example, if their stove and fridge and all those type of appliances that are being made in China and have to be imported into the United States, when you hear the President of the United States say that he will slap a 110% tariff on imports from China, you know what? The cost of those appliances would have gone up instantly by 110%. Why I say so? Whoever the agent is in the United States who is importing those appliances will not eat that increase. They will not absorb it. They are in the business to make money and to make a profit. So when those are imported, those appliances are imported into the United States, then of course that tariff is added. And then it is passed on to whomever the wholesaler is in the United States, who some of our businesses here in St. Kitts Nevis would then purchase those appliances from. So that then is passed on to the wholesaler or the importer here in St. Kitts Nevis. And the importers here are not going to eat it or absorb it either. They're going to pass it on to the end user, who are you and I. And it's as simple as that. So something that started out at $100, by the time it gets here, it's $300 for argument's sake, when you add shipping and everything. And so we must understand that global tariff are a tax on consumers just like you and I. It's a global tax. And so we pay that tax one way or the other. Then of course we have certain circumstances that exist now. You have this war between, well, Iran and the United States, or the United States and Iran. And they have been, going at this for, what, a few months now. We were hoping and thinking that this war was going to be a quick two weeks war. But you've had military exercise, you've had some diplomacy that has failed, you've had other things that are happening. And in all this, the needle is not being moved, because we have gas prices continue to escalate, due to the fact that there's conflict in this major strait, which is called Hormuz, where all that shipping, the shipment of oil and other products go through that particular narrow strait, I call it. It's about 20 miles wide, but that is a significant shipping lane that is now sometimes open, sometimes closed. And every time it closes, then of course the cost of goods goes up, cost of oil goes up. And then, as I said before, whatever happened globally, whatever taxation and conflict that occurs globally, it comes right back to us here in this small island developing state. And so that is where we are with some of the international conflicts that are occurring right now. And so, yes, we understand what is happening, where persons are saying that their electricity bills are much higher than what it was last month and the month before. Some have said that their electricity bills have doubled. Of course, that is of a major concern, I'm sure, to this government. But I will say that in the past, we've had some really good times, there's no doubt, but people are not concerned about the past. People are concerned about now, but we also must put all of these issues together and see that there are certain things that we just don't have any control of. Yeah? And so what I would admonish our people to do is to see in which way you can start to eliminate some of the things that are not as important now. If you can get by without certain things, then you hold back until such time. Even with the electricity, I will say from my standpoint, I used to throw clothes in the washing machine almost every day. And when I say almost every day, frequently. But I can't do that now. I let my clothes, put them together in a basket, and then on Saturday morning I throw everything in. Not white and colored though, eh? And how to wash. Separate the white and then the color, right? I'm just being. But yeah, so I have told myself that I cannot afford to wash as often as I used to. So these are some of the practices that we'll have to implement so that we can cut down on some of the energy usage. And it can work. But I am going to say this as well, that these circumstances that we are facing, believe me, they won't last forever. They say tough times last, but, well, tough times don't last, but tough people do. We can tough out this one. And I believe that around the corner, because here's what is going to happen. In the United States, they have elections coming up in November. And I believe everything would be done to make sure that circumstances in the United States get better than what it is now, so that at least the incumbents can go out, and when I say incumbents, I mean the Republicans can go out and say, well, we have brought down the price of gas. And if the price of gas come down or fuel come down, then it would trickle down to us. So let's hope that is the strategy that they'll employ so that we can have some relief. And I believe that might be the case. But let's continue to keep track of what is happening internationally, because what happens internationally will certainly affect us locally as well. And indeed, we want to see these prices come down, electricity prices that is. But keep in mind that NEVLEC, which have been doing a marvelous job in keeping electricity going here on the island of Nevis, they too are suffering under these high fuel prices and the external challenges that they have to face, even when they have to buy transformers, lines and poles and so forth. So it is all connected in some way. And so let us continue to be hopeful, but also continue to be prudent in our spending and our actions, so that we can certainly stay afloat here in this island. I went to one or two persons' homes in recent times, just to visit, and they have said that the opposition have come and have blamed Mark Brantley for everything. Yeah? And I say, instead of going and blaming Mark Brantley, which of course that is just politics, why not have a conversation with these householders? Just have a conversation and impart some knowledge. Be empathetic in every possible way, because you can be the opposition and still be sensibly in your approach, because if you were to come into government tomorrow, God forbid the opposition comes in, what can they do? It's the same situation you'll be faced with, because they cannot tell you, and any opposition tells you they're going to come into government tomorrow morning and lower the price of electricity, lower the price of gas. They're lying to you, because they can't do it. But what can be done is to impart the best knowledge we can. So to tell persons to, pull back here, pull back there. You're not really messing up your flow, but you're making sure that you can manage these tough times. And that's the type of conversation we need to have with our people when we go out to canvass, and not trying to throw blame. Because keep in mind, and I'm going to remind the people of Nevis, there was a point in time when no one was paying fuel surcharge here. Domestic users, that is, were paying fuel surcharge under a previous CCM government. That was up to 2006. No one was paying fuel surcharge. Domestic users, that is. It was on the commercial users. And then after 2006, fuel surcharge was introduced onto the backs of our domestic users by the NRP. We then came in and took it off. but it had to be reintroduced because of the cost of fuel at this point in time. We took it off. It was a commitment we made. And I remember when I was the minister of, the senior minister responsible for communication, I was responsible for NEVLEC. Back in 2016, thereabout, I believe fuel prices would have plummeted to the point where, the fuel surcharge was removed. As far as I know, I can recall, it was brought down to a negligible amount. Because what I said then to the board of directors at NEVLEC, listen, people would have had their challenges prior to 2016, for example. All I want to do is to offer some relief. The board did not agree with me, but I made the decision. We're going to give the relief, pass on the relief to our consumers. And so I can make this commitment, I'm sure publicly, that once there is relief to be had, it will be passed on to our people. We have done it before, and we're going to do it again. As a matter of fact, I think I heard the Premier said that for the past 4 years, the NIA would have been absorbing some of that fuel surcharge. But it is untenable at this point. But we want our people to understand that it is tough, but relief will come, and when it comes, it will be passed on to our citizens. That being said, I read something just now, but I also want to go further on and said that I am always proud and pleased with this party called Concerned Citizens Movement in government. It is only party, I believe, that can manage the affairs of the island of Nevis at this point in time. The results are there to show that when the Concerned Citizens Movement is in government, the circumstances here on the island are made much better. We have looked out for the young, the old, and the not so old. And we have certainly made the lives of the people of Nevis far much better than it has always been under any other government. And so in 2013, I recall a mandate was given to the Concerned Citizens Movement, an overwhelming mandate to go and fix the difficulties and challenges that Nevis was facing at that time, whether it was in water, electricity, infrastructure, whether it was in whatever social program, in health, whatever the case might be, that mandate was given. And we are reaping the fruits of such a mandate in that. When you look at electricity, for example, we have fixed electricity here on the island of Nevis. When we came into government in 2013, we had a rolling blackouts here on the island of Nevis. NEVLEC was on the brink of disaster. No investment was made in NEVLEC. No investment was made in any generators up to that point in time. None over those 6.5 years. But we came into government, met a disaster in the making, and we went about our business to fix. Call us Mr. and Mrs. Fix It, whatever you want to call us. We went and fixed that problem. And you know, we fixed it. I recall in 2016, we bought 2 generators. One was a 2.5 megawatts containerized generator, and the other was a 3.8 megawatt Watsilla baseload generator. So right there and then, that was just about what? About 10 megawatts, just with those 2 purchases. And in 2021, we bought another baseload generator, Watsilla, 3.8 megawatts, which brought that capacity to 13, just over 13 megawatts. That is the investment we made. And that is why today we can say we have stable electricity here on the island of Nevis. Those were major investments. So we fixed electricity, and now we're going on to harness the resource called geothermal. That's another conversation. But we were told to fix these things, and we have fixed it. And it is ours to enjoy at this point in time. Not only that, in 2013, with all of the noise that was being made about water, water needed fixing too, you know, because we were told that we were supposed to be getting 1 million gallons of water per day. We were paying a company, a water company, to pump water to us. Just how about, what do you call it, a pump down in a well, 2 wells, pumping water to us. We were supposed to have, at that point in time, they said receive 1 million gallons of water per day. But as far as I can recall, we were getting just about 700,000 gallons. But here's the interesting thing. That company never invested in new reservoirs, They didn't invest in any distribution network. They didn't invest in any new equipment. Why? Because they did not have anyone working for them. Well, let me say one person was on island working. And all of the controls of those two pumps was done remotely from New York or wherever, somewhere overseas. But our young men and young women had to be doing all of the work. When you see a ruptured pipe in Gingerland or in Brickhill or in Hanley's Road, is the water department, the Nevis water department had to send workers out there to repair those damages or those ruptured pipes. And so we were paying those workers as civil servants, but yet still this company was getting over 55,000 US dollars, 140 something thousand dollars a month for two pumps that were in these wells, in Fothergills and in Maddens. So we were paying for water, paying for that water, but of course, it was the first time in the history of Nevis that has ever happened. But we were not reaping any benefits from that. So we had to fix that as well too. So we went and invest heavily in water. So right now we have brand new storage tanks in Maddens, in Fothergills, Stony Hill, Zetlands, Morgan Estate, and those who don't know where Morgan Estate is, it's above Zetlands up there in Burden Pasture area. We have a brand new tank also up there in Hamilton. Brand new tanks. Some hold, over 300,000 gallons and some up to 500,000 gallons. Major upgrade to the system that was done by your concerned citizens movement. Then we would have put in distribution lines all up and down Nevis, from Maddens all the way to Four Seasons, from Fothergills all the way to Cherry Garden and beyond. And so right now as it is, we have water 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days per year. That is how you fix things. We got the mandate to fix water, and we did it. And you know what? We have done it with all local resources. Yes, we would have gotten monies from the Caribbean Development Bank. We would have gotten monies from the SIDF. We would have gotten monies from wherever. But all this was being done by our local men and women who are now in charge of this entire network. And so we were asked to fix it. We fixed it. Even our non-established workers were saying, listen, we want to retire with some dignity and some stability in our life after we are done working at the age of 62. So how we fix that? We introduced this non-established workers non-contributory retirement pension and pension scheme. So non-established workers can now retire with dignity. So what happens? When they retire, they get a gratuity, and every month they get a pension. It was never the case before 2013. We introduced this in 2022, I believe it was. And some naysayers were saying, it can't happen, it won't happen, and they say it was an election gimmick and what's that. But obviously, the results are there to show that we were serious about this program. It was introduced, and we have some happy non-established or former non-established workers out there who are benefiting from an initiative that was asked for. We were told to fix the non-established workers' plight, and we were able to do it through this non-established workers non-contributory retirement and pension scheme. So we have asked to fix these things, and we have done that. We were asked to fix even the infrastructure up there at Cherry Garden. You know, the other party here, the opposition, was touting that they built X amount of houses in Cherry Garden. What a rush job. Went up there and rush, and gave people what? I always say in the past that they made poor people into paupers right up there at Cherry Garden. Right up there at Cherry Garden. You had some sewage systems up there that were, oh man. You drive to Cherry Garden and people's backyard were flooded with water. Sewage water, you know. Sewage water. They dug a soak away, and if they reach down 10 feet and they meet across, they stop, fill it up with stone, and on they go. That's your problem, they told the people of Cherry Garden. So it was for us to fix, and we went about fixing it. Almost 65% of the houses in Cherry Garden had an issue with their soak away and septic system. We went up there and fixed it to the tune of well over $400,000. And what could have happened up there? You had water running out of people's backyard into the streets. And then you brag about and boast about Cherry Garden. We went up there and fixed these soakaway systems, whereby people can now even plant something in their backyard now. It is unfortunate, but we were told to fix it. And we went and fixed it. Even the mortgages up there in Cherry Garden. We introduced a mortgage relief scheme up there, and persons took advantage of it, where they were able to move a mortgage that was not theirs in the first place, because none of them had their names on any of those properties. Well, not none of them. Let me say, a large percentage of the persons in Cherry Garden who were given a key and said, pay $1,000 to the corporation, $1,000 to the corporation. No connection to the house, no name or no title, no name on the property. We were able to offer those folks a discount on the balance and say, listen, let us fix this problem. They went off to a lending institution. We handled all of the legal costs and everything, and they went to various institutions here on Nevis, and they were able to get a relief, and now they have a title in their name. So see them with the key. When we go canvassing, you all help me to get this. Jingle, jingle, kiki, shake it, shake the keys here. That is what you do. We were told to fix that problem, and we were able to fix it for the folks there in Cherry Garden. And that is the mandate we got. And we continue to fix, and we fixed, and we fixed, and people are now happy. Happy with what they've fixed. You know, there's another issue that we've been asked to fix, and we're fixing it. And the Premier and his administration will allude to it at some point. Because we came in and met this difficulty with Unit Trust Corporation out of Trinidad. People can't get a title. And we're coming up and we've fashioned something to get that fixed, and it's being worked on. But we still continue to fix month after month, because we still have to pay them about $21,500 every month. When in truth and in fact, $10 million was left in Scotiabank as a security against that mortgage that was had for over 700 acres of land down there, lands down there at Penny's, Nugent Heights, and up in Belmont area. They end up and take it up and eat it off. Whack it out. Whack out $10 million US, which is $27 million EC, and left persons who have properties up there in Nugent Heights with no title. Because you can't get the title released because there's no security now against that mortgage. And so we have been paying every month $21,500 US to ensure that we can pay down that balance. But there have been some discussions I understand in recent times, whereby there is something being fashioned to get out of that difficulty down there in Trinidad. So all of these problems, man, I tell you, I have to. People might say you're going back, but we have to go back before we go forward, you know. You got to know where you're coming from to know where you're going. And the fact that we know where we're coming from under that previous government, it means going forward. You cannot say yeah or nay to nothing that they have to say. You have to shun them. No time for NRP. We are on a particular course here where we are going to have this expansion of the Van Sammer International Airport. Destiny project is coming. Geothermal is coming. These major projects are what are going to propel the island of Nevis forward. We are on a trajectory to bring development to the island of Nevis and get the circumstances and the economic value of this island to be improved in such a way where we'll all be proud of the results in the end. And so, when you hear all this talk, I don't worry about them, you know, because all I know, I could tell you this much, and I'm going to wrap up shortly because I'm going to run to this funeral, but I'm going to tell the people of Nevis this, yeah? And remind you that NRP is the first party in the history of Nevis, in the history of St. Kitts and Nevis, in the history of the OECS, CARICOM, and even the Western Hemisphere, to contest an election, won 2 seats, and before the election was done, before the last vote was counted, they lost a seat. Sounds confusing to you, right? Yeah, they won 2 seats in the last election. But before the last vote was counted in that election, they lost a seat. Pure confusion. And someone would have said that Nevis dodged a bullet with the NRP not getting to government. Can you see the confusion you see in the opposition right now? That's the same kind of confusion you'd have had in government today. The same cussing, you hear them cussing people and belittling people, calling them all kind of derogatory names on Facebook, on radio, and whatever. That is the same party that was aspiring to be in government. And I've said before, when people show you who they are, when they tell you who they are, take them at their word. But when they show you who they are, you better believe them. They're showing you exactly who they are. And that is who you need to stay away from. Shun them. When they come in front of your door, I'm not saying to cuss them, listen to them. But when they're gone, just say to yourself, I wonder who they think they're fooling. Yeah, you have to cuss nobody. Entertain them. And if you want to cuss us when we come, that's fine too, because I've been there, done that. I understand the territory. But when it's all said and done, we are bringing a message of hope. If they want to bring lies to you and you want to take it, it's up to you. But when we talk with a degree of common sense and sensibility behind it so that you can understand what we're saying. So when they tell you who they are, take them at their word. And when they show you who they are, you better believe them, because just what they're showing you is exactly who they are. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe I'm going to wrap up shortly because I want to go down the road here quickly, and I'll cut short a few minutes, but I believe I'll get it back next week. They'll give me 4 minutes over. I'm just kidding. No, it won't happen. But anyway, just keep in mind we are a product of all choices, yeah? And you have choices in this life. And you make the right choice at all times. And certainly, we're coming up to a point where we're hearing election is in the air. Not a local election, because that's next year. Sometime next year, the end of next year. But we're hearing all kind of things about election. But I want you to make the comparison between both parties that are going to come to you. Anybody else who come, they're just making noise. Meaning, I don't even know who they are. But you have two major parties around the NRP and the CCM. We're going to come to you. But we have a stellar record when it comes to representing the island of Nevis at the federal level, and it is unsurpassed. But next week we can go into all of the things, because I have a whole list of things I can tell you where we have demonstrated that we are the best party to represent the island of Nevis, whether on St. Kitts, whether regionally or internationally. And it goes without saying anyway, but I say that and leave it there. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to close off now. I want to thank you for listening this afternoon. It was indeed my pleasure being here. I'm going to go and pay my last respect to the, alongside the family of Mrs. Carmen Lawrence, who is going to be laid to rest shortly. And so I say to you, if you go to church on a Saturday, go and praise your God. If you go on a Sunday, do likewise. Pray for this station, pray for me, pray for the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis and both leaders. And of course, pray that they'll make the right choices, apply wisdom in everything they do. And so that with this island, this country can continue to grow from strength to strength, and we as citizens can be the beneficiary of such effort. Thank you for listening. May God continue to bless you always. Have a wonderful afternoon and a safe and productive weekend, and may God continue to bless us all. Goodbye.
And opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Nevis Broadcasting Company Limited or its advertisers.
It is 30 seconds before 2 o'clock.
With all the power from the tower, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, VON Radio, from the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.